This is Newsroom on SABC News. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Eben Jansen. This show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are then repeated at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast 5 a.m. then the following morning. We also stream live on YouTube between 9 and 10 every day. That is live, and then the entire show can be watched all day on our YouTube channel. Today, we look at continuing political violence and intolerance in South Africa ahead of the upcoming election. The President is expected to respond in Parliament today to the Nkanla report, and we have some of South Africa's top music talent in studio a little bit later in the show. But first, here are the news headlines. The two-week deadline for President Jacob Zuma to respond to Public Protector Thuli Madonsela's Nkanla report expires today. The report found that President Zuma and his family improperly benefited from the 246 million rand security upgrades to his Nkanla home. The President has to submit his intentions regarding the findings and remedial action suggested in the report. He's expected to do so in writing as Parliament is in recess, and a special sitting would have to be called. The police have cracked a social grant fraud syndicate in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. They raided a house at the Kwezi township where they arrested 16 people. The police seized social grant bank cards, computer software, as well as cell phones. A major earthquake has struck off the coast of Chile. Last night's quake triggered a 2-meter-high tsunami that hit the northern part of that country. There were no reports of significant damage to the coastal areas, but 2 people died and 3 were injured due to the quake. President Jacob Zuma has until today to submit Public Protector Thuli Madonsela's Nkanla report and his response to it to Parliament. In the meantime, the Institute for Accountability in Southern Africa has filed an objection against the President's nomination. The Institute says the ANC is still considering the objection letter and had not yet responded substantively to it. In an open letter sent to the IEC, the Institute includes arguments based on the Nkanla report. Now, from our parliamentary studio, we are joined by Nkanla. Good morning, Nkanla. Good morning, Nkanla. Are you there? Seems as if Nkanla is a little bit frozen at the moment. We'll try and get back to him to give us a little heads up as to how the Nkanla or the President's response will proceed in Parliament today. Meanwhile, all opposition parties except the DA and the Freedom Front Plus are demanding the resignation of Independent Electoral Commission Chairperson Pansy Klugman following the IEC headquarters lease scandal. The 8 parties have met in Pretoria under a multi-party platform. The chairperson of the forum, UDM leader Bantu Holomisa, says they cannot trust Klugman to preside over the May 7th elections.
The good international reputation of the IEC has been tainted, and it creates doubt that the commission that can preside over free and fair election. All the political parties present, with the exception of the DA and Freedom Front Plus, agreed that Advocate Pansy Klugman, the incumbent chairperson of the Electoral Commission, must resign immediately.
Well, while we're waiting for our satellite to Parliament to get up, let's just take a quick look at what you are talking about on social media at the moment. Of course, don't forget, your views are welcome here on the show at SABC Newsroom on Twitter. That's where we live. Let's just have a look and see what is on Twitter. Mokhalahadi Ngibisa says, Nkanla response from #1 resident is due today. I can't wait to hear the justification. Reddy Rasekwalo says, April Fool is over. President Zuma is expected to respond to the Nkanla report. It remains to be seen if he respects the office he occupies or not. And then Muzi Dlamini says, on this Wednesday morning, we pray for an honest, truthful response to Nkanla from our President. One, that trust in his high office. And Ronald Ramukuela says, today is D-Day for our President. Jacob Zuma to comment on Nkanla. But will he comment? I think he will. Just submit his report, says Ronald. And then LLW says, I dreamt I was at Nkanla last night, landed the unauthorized helicopter there and got shot at. Security is really tight there. We like that. That's it's very interesting. Only a dream, LL. Well, those are some of the thoughts on the Nkanla report. Of course, the president has until today to submit his response to Thuli Madonsela. Let's go back to Parliament. We found Lukhanya Kalata. Lukhanya, you're with us there?
Yes, Eben, I can hear you loud and clear.
Welcome. You're frozen there, but just tell us how the process will proceed today.
All right, well, Eben, we do expect the President to send in a written reply to the Nkanla report this morning. We don't know obviously, what time the President is likely to send that report to Parliament. If he's kind enough, he'll send it by, say, 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning. But obviously, if he hasn't considered our needs as the media at all, it could come in at 10 to 4 this afternoon, which could make life a little bit trickier for us. But yes, the report is due today. Yesterday, we were able to meet up with the Public Protector, Thuli Madonsela. And she was we asked her what happens if the president then does not meet the deadline. She then said that, look, they will then contact his office, ask him what were the reasons to why her recommendation was not adhered to, and then basically seek remedial action almost immediately. So, what we know is that the President is due to send a written reply to Parliament today. However, we cannot tell you the time as to when that reply will reach Parliament. Eben?
And once the report is submitted, then what's the next move? Do we see a Speaker calling for a special sitting of Parliament?
Well, not yet. I think once the report is then with the Speaker's office, the Speaker will then table that report to Parliament. He will then formally accept it. Then he will table the report as well as the Nkanla report officially. Once that is done, the Speaker then has two options. The first is to approach the Chief Whips Forum to then discuss a possible way forward. The second option that he has is to go to the leaders of the political parties directly to then say, okay, I now have both the reply from the President and the report tabled in Parliament. How do you guys then think we should proceed with this debate? Now, yesterday we spoke to the Democratic Alliance and we spoke to the Freedom Front Plus. Both those opposition parties said they would want an urgent debate on the matter. Yeah. Obviously, with it being so close before the elections, it's in the opposition party's best interest to have this matter debated almost immediately. Yeah. The ANC, however, I doubt that they will necessarily agree to a debate. They might go the way to tell the Speaker that, look, go ahead, appoint an ad hoc committee that will then look into these reports, and then once we have the findings of that ad hoc committee, then we can go for a debate within the National Assembly. So the Speaker has those two options, yeah, but he will have to consult the leaders or at least the opposition parties on a way forward. Eben?
Impeachment, Lukhanya, has been a buzzword that's going around the media for the last couple of weeks, actually. But there's no such thing really in South African law and in the South African Constitution. How will this process proceed that the DA has been drumming up so much support for?
Well, Eben, you know that nowhere in the South African Constitution is the word impeachment used. We suspect that the Democratic Alliance would obviously use it for the dramatic effect. And it's a word that is quite common, I think, in America, but not here in South Africa. But what the DA is proposing to do is to remove the president from office. Now, we suspect that they will then go via Section 89 of the Constitution. What they will then require in that case is to get a 2/3 majority of the National Assembly to vote in favor of removing President Jacob Zuma from office. Yesterday in their press conference, the Democratic Alliance said that they have found new evidence that the president may have deliberately misled Parliament. Now, if that is the case, that is a violation of the Constitution. It's a violation of the law. And on that basis, the Democratic Alliance could then use and drum up support to get the National Assembly, 2/3 of it, to vote in favor of removing the president from office. Now, once that happens, that's obviously the president will be fired. Now, you know that when you get fired, obviously you lose all kinds of benefits that would have accrued to you while you were in that position. Eben?
Nkanla, interesting. I'm sure you'll keep us updated how things proceed at Parliament today. Thank you for that contribution. That is our parliamentary reporter, Nkanla coming to you live from Cape Town. Well, KwaZulu-Natal has been a hotspot for political violence and intolerance in recent times, but it was the first province to sign an electoral code of conduct. Parties contesting political space in KwaZulu-Natal have committed to playing fair ahead of and during the general elections on May the 7th. But before the ink could even dry, incidents of political violence have been reported. 2 people were gunned down at Commercial Hostel, while some, allegedly wearing ANC T-shirts, prevented NFP members from campaigning in Ifafa on the south coast. Dr. Bheki Mngomezulu is a political analyst from the University of KwaZulu-Natal and joins us from Durban. Good morning, Doctor. Thank you for joining us.
Morning to you and morning to the listeners.
Doctor, just tell us your thoughts on the latest rounds of political violence and intolerance.
I think this is very disturbing indeed, because when the election process started, we had a number of measures being put in place to ensure that political violence is basically a thing of the past. But unfortunately, since the signing of the Electoral Code by a number of political parties operating in KwaZulu-Natal, we have seen a number of people being killed in different places. So basically, there is fear that there might be a revival of political violence, which we have seen happening in the past. This is very disturbing given the fact that the political leadership in KwaZulu-Natal, from the ANC, IFP, NFP, and all other interested parties, has been basically preaching the gospel that their electorate should try and make sure that this election goes freely and fairly so that everybody is happy with the results.
We've seen parties sign the Code of Conduct, but is political intolerance, has it become part and parcel of our political culture in South Africa?
We may say so, simply because starting from the eve of the first elections in 1994, we saw a number of people being killed, more especially between the ANC and the IFP. Yeah. But I think the danger that we face is that of simplifying the entire process and basically linking it to specific political parties. Because in my view, the political situation in KwaZulu-Natal is more complex than it appears at face value. We have people coming from rural areas who have a number of differences back home, and when they come to the urban centers like Durban, Guamashu Hostel, 17, Tumlazi, and a number of urban centers, then they continue basically with their political differences they have back home, some of which have nothing to do with politics at all. And then, of course, we have some political leaders who are not careful about their diction or their choice of words, and therefore that spreads also violence in KwaZulu-Natal.
Doctor, I wanted to ask you about the rise of the NFP in KwaZulu-Natal and the effect that it's had on the political landscape, but also on violence and then intolerance in the province.
The NFP has undoubtedly reconfigured the political landscape in KwaZulu-Natal. Remember that the leader of the NFP, Magwaza Msebi, was a vocal person when she was in the IFP. And when she left the IFP, there are a number of people who left with her. And then, of course, those who remained within the IFP saw her as selling out, as it were. And therefore, there are those differences that exist between former members of the IFP and the current members of the NFP. So therefore, you see some of the NFP leaders being killed. And then, of course, we also see some IFP members being killed. So this is basically in line with what we saw happening on the eve of the first election in 1994, where we have revenge attacks from both sectors. So then the coming into the picture of the NFP has definitely reconfigured the political landscape in KwaZulu-Natal, and in one way or the other has created space for more violence to break up, for people who have political differences and those who have social differences, and then use the political sphere to basically fulfill their own ambitions.
Doctor, are you afraid that ahead of this election the violence could escalate and spread throughout the province?
At the moment, I remain optimistic simply because the leadership of all political parties in KwaZulu-Natal have been proactive in trying to prevent the spread of what we've seen happening. Of course, we are all saddened by the loss of life, regardless of who the person comes from or who the person represents. But then, given the way the political leadership across the political spectrum has reacted to these incidents, one remains optimistic that at least we may not see the repeat of what happened just before the eve of the first election and what has been happening also in the previous election. So then, if the leadership continues doing what it is doing, and then, of course, making sure that political education is given to its electorate, then one can hope that the situation will improve very soon.
And you believe this would be the key to a long-lasting solution of this problem in the province?
Absolutely, because the problem is that we usually look at the political leadership to basically give direction. But the reality of the matter is that political leaders don't kill one another, by and large. What happens is that the statements that are uttered by the political leaders are then misconstrued by the electorate, who then decide to basically attack their political opponents, thinking that they are fulfilling the ambitions of their leaders. In most cases, this is not the case. So when you see political leaders taking the podium and, of course, distancing themselves from political activities, including the killings, in most instances, they do that with honesty. But then, because those of us who are on the opposition side then will say they are saying this just because they want to score political points, when the reality of the matter is that they are not definitely part of the political process that is taking place, and they've not in any way instructed their electorate to go and kill their political opponents.
Dr. Bheki Mngomezulu, thank you very much for joining us, political analyst from the University of KwaZulu-Natal, joining us live there this morning, giving us a little insight into the problem facing that province with political intolerance and continued violence. Well, let's have a quick look at our Facebook page. Of course, it's D-Day for President Jacob Zuma to submit the Nkanla report to Parliament. Give us your thoughts here on Facebook. You can go there, look at it, let us know on our page or on Twitter at SABC Newsroom what you think. Then, of course, the petrol price has hit a new record high. We are not surprised by that at all. On our Facebook page, you can get all the juice on that, as it were, the juice on petrol. You can get all of that and more. And, of course, some other interesting stories. Then, a major earthquake, magnitude 8.2, struck off the coast of Chile yesterday, triggering a tsunami that hit the northern parts of that country. We have a video. There you have that video. That's on our Facebook page as well. We're taking a look at that. We're going to go to a break. When you come back, more on Newsroom.
Your World provides trusted world, continent and local stories. We deliver breaking news from across the globe and information on the latest top stories on business, technology, politics and sport. Analysis of the big global business and economic issues as they affect consumers and investors. Make sure you don't miss Your World, weekdays between 11 and 12 midnight. We keep the nation fully informed.
Good evening and welcome to Afro Showbiz News. My name is Musam Khalipi and we have a lineup of stories of art and entertainment.
I want my artwork to be in everybody's home. And if I want it to be in everybody's home, then it has to be affordable.
The first ever produced vendor film, Elelwani, is to be released at cinemas in Johannesburg, South Africa. What does it take to really be Mr. Ugly? Zimbabwean William Masimvu has got what it takes to be one. For him, it has yet another victory as he retains his title.
That's Afro Showbiz News, Saturdays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Welcome back. The Gauteng Roads and Transport Department intends to roll out non-motorized transport infrastructure in the province, which would integrate all municipalities and non-motorized transport networks. The Gauteng Transport Commission was recommending the use of non-motorized transport to reduce congestion and create cleaner, sustainable cities and a healthier population. Now, to tell us more, we are joined by the Gauteng MEC for Transport, Mr. Ismail Avadi. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Nice to see you.
Eben.
I want you to tell us about the thinking, the idea, and the sort of goals behind this new thinking around transport here in the big city.
I think the big problem we're going to be facing in a few years from now is really traffic congestion. We've got massive in-migration of people coming into Gauteng. Our estimates is 25,000 people come every month into Gauteng. Our vehicle population is increasing. And I think down the line we can forecast really massive traffic gridlocks and congestion. And we've got to start planning for alternatives. And we think non-motorized transport is really one of the options that we have on the table. So as a department and as the Gauteng Transport Commission, we are determined to begin to promote non-motorized transport, particularly cycling as a form of mobility for daily use, rather than just sport and recreational activities.
It's been something that's been in the pipeline for quite a bit. It seems as if we've got a little bit of a problem with space, especially in Johannesburg. How are we going to overcome that challenge of space?
Well, there's two ways, really. One is to begin to modify the infrastructure and to build the infrastructure that we have. Now, if you look at just the link between the University of Johannesburg and Wits University, passing Auckland Park here at the SABC, we are starting to create dedicated lanes for cycling and for pedestrians. But the other alternative is really for people to begin to take charge of their communities. I've been cycling since I was in Standard 3 in school, right up to university in Lenasia. We've had gravel roads. We haven't had tarred roads in the early years. And I can tell you we had great fun skidding the bicycles on the gravel road. And I'm sure you also enjoyed that. So it's not just a question of infrastructure. It's about really a mindset change, a cultural shift in our communities, and to get people to start using cycling as a mode of transport.
How do you win over the confidence of the populace? I get it. I'm a cyclist myself, and I get a sense that there's a real fear factor amongst people using bicycles in the public space here. People have an idea that the roads can be quite aggressive, and that things like taxis and young drivers can be quite irresponsible on the roads.
I think road safety is a very, very big issue. We're going to have to find a collective response. From our side, I think public awareness and education is important. Various organizations promoting cycling are talking about 1.5 meters as a distance between a motor vehicle and a bicycle. But then we also need better enforcement. I think at the moment perhaps the traffic departments look at just motorists and traffic offences, but they don't have an eye to cyclists and the safety of cyclists or pedestrians. Most of our fatalities on our roads are actually pedestrians. Even in the car accidents, etc., it's the pedestrians who are the victims. So I think we need to begin to look at road safety in a broader context, and clearly part of that is public education. One last thing, if I might add, is when you go for your learner's license, I think all the rules that you have to learn of, etc., is really, we don't have a section really dealing with motorbikes, cycling, pedestrian safety, etc. It's something which government has to look at.
What sort of timeframes are you looking at, and then also what sort of international models? I'm sure you're looking at international models. I know Cape Town has made some strides forward, but what sort of timeframes and then what sort of examples or benchmarks are you looking at?
No, we are starting with work immediately. Of course, you're not going to change the infrastructure overnight, but I think the city of Johannesburg has taken a lead in this. We've got a cycling route in Orlando Township. We've started with this one, as I said, between the various universities here. There's one coming up now really in Alexandra Township in Jansen, again promoting cycling that will come online next year. City of Tshwane is looking at closing off 4 major streets in the city centre to motorized transport. and really making that pedestrian walkways, cycling, skateboarding, all of those kinds of things. So we wanted a new look and a new feel to our cities.
Yeah.
International models, I think they are best practices all over the world. I've just come back from Shanghai. I can't believe the greenery that we see in the cities, the dedicated lanes for cycling, for motorbikes, and for cars and buses. I think that's the way to go.
Johannesburg is already seen as a very green city in the way that it looks. You know, it's lots of trees all over and so forth. But is this part of integrating the undercurrent of green energy and green living in our cities and suburbs?
Look, Gauteng is a major contributor to carbon emissions. We are actually a culprit on the African continent, and we're going to have to find ways of reducing our carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Cycling is one positive example, of course, to go for Euro 4 or 5 compliant buses, to get the taxis to begin to convert to natural gas rather than fuel. So there are a number of things that we are already rolling out, but I think the big thing is to get cycling going in the province of Gauteng.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Me as a cyclist, I look forward to this because I think sometimes our roads can be a little bit crazy and a little bit dangerous, and it's wonderful to see that you guys are putting this kind of process in play.
Yeah, but I cycle as well, so let's go on Sunday together.
Fantastic. I'll take you up on that on that invitation. That's the Gauteng MEC for Transport, Mr. Ismail Vadi, joining us here on Newsroom this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. So, if you've got a bicycle, dust it off, get it ready. Johannesburg is good to go. We're going to go green, and we're going to make our streets much more safer for everybody to use their bicycles and all other forms of non-motorized transport. Let's take a quick look about what you are talking about on social media. Naki Brown says, I knew I should have bought a diesel car and not petrol, because right now we're suffering like wasabi with these petrol hikes. That's right, get a bicycle. We're all going to have to start riding bicycles to work. As for the petrol price, says Ashton, South Africa, geez, it's getting out of hand. Ashton, get a bicycle, my friend. Petrol has never been so expensive, says with a big sad face. Junaid Valley says, I think our petrol should be subsidized by Nkanla. I don't think that's going to cut it, my friend. And then Tando Mpikwa says, oh, so petrol went up again. Get a bicycle, get a bicycle. We want you to use the facilities here in Johannesburg. Even if you're anywhere else in the country, use the bicycle. Get the children to ride bicycle. Improve their health, improve their life, and improve the look and feel of all our cities. You're watching Newsroom. We'll be back after a short break with some of the top music talent in the country.
Gaming enthusiasts, including us here at Network, indulged in over 80 exhibits that included the Xbox One and Nintendo. Visitors also got to try out PlayStation 4 computer entertainment system, which was unveiled at Rage 2013.
I just came here to see the Xbox One and the PS4, see which one I'd buy.
If you have close to 400,000 Rand to spare, then you can buy the new UHD TV set. Samsung has launched cheaper models, but cheaper doesn't necessarily mean cheap. South Africa has just received the country's first surgical robot, but the robot isn't quite taking over from your surgeon just yet.
That's Network, Sundays, 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
SABC News plays a critical role in providing unbiased and reliable news. We have a well-established reputation of uncovering, reporting and delivering news. A significant growth in popularity of our news demonstrates the demand for our news content. We continue to provide unrivaled coverage of vital events in and out of the country. Wherever the news is happening, we'll be there to bring them to you at the right time. No one has the news covered like SABC News. We lead and they follow. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom on SABC News. Let's take a quick look at the top stories on our platform right now. The 2-week deadline for President Jacob Zuma to respond to Public Protector Thuli Madonkala's Nkanla report expires today. The report found that President Zuma and his family improperly benefited from the 246 million rand security upgrades to his Nkanla home. The president has to submit his intentions regarding the findings and remedial action suggested in the report. He's expected to do so in writing as Parliament is in recess and a special sitting would have to be called. The police have cracked a social grant fraud syndicate in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. They raided a house at the Ikwezi township where they arrested 16 people. The police seized social grant bank cards, computer software, as well as cell phones. A major earthquake is struck off the coast of Chile. Last night's quake triggered a 2-meter-high tsunami that hit the northern parts of that country. There were no reports of significant damage to coastal areas, but 2 people died and 3 were injured due to the quake. The long search for the missing Malaysian airliner has been boosted by the arrival of a British submarine in the Indian Ocean. The battery-powered signal from the plane's black box, which could indicate what happened to it, usually lasts only about 30 days, and time is fast running out to find it. Nothing has been found so far that would indicate a crash. Now, the Rotary Family Health will today officially launch Health Day at the Love Life Centre in Uitenhage in the Eastern Cape. The program is free of charge to families who will be provided with services like HIV/AIDS screening, tuberculosis, diabetes, hypertension, and the checking of non-communicable diseases. The program will run from the 2nd to the 4th of April between 9 in the morning and 4 in the afternoon. The initiative aims to increase family access to healthcare and will be extended to 145 sites across the country. For more on this program, we are joined from Uitenhage by our reporter, Iviwe Porti. Good morning. I understand you have an interview there with, is it the Deputy Minister of Health? But just set the scene for us first, Iviwe.
In Uitenhage, at the Love Life Centre, where the Rotary Family Health Day launch is held. Now, the Health Day will start today until the 4th, and it's going around throughout the country, where the Rotary Health Foundation, together with government and other stakeholders, are promoting a healthy living and disease-free community. To speak now to the Deputy Minister of Health, Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa. Good morning.
Well, we have to apologize, unfortunately, for the poor sound quality on our live view crossing there. New technology we're working with, and unfortunately the sound was not up to scratch. We're going to go to Cape Town. The 16th International Conference on Infectious Diseases kicks off today in the mother city and will go up till the 5th of April at the Cape Town International Convention Centre. The International Society of Infectious Disease is committed to improving the care of patients with infectious disease, the training of clinicians and researchers in infectious diseases and microbiology, as well as the control of infectious diseases around the world. For more on the conference, we are joined from Cape Town by the President of the International Society of Infectious Diseases, Professor Keith Klugman, as well as Professor Mark Mendelsohn, President of Infectious Diseases Societies of Southern Africa. Good morning to you, Professor.
Good morning, Eben. How are you?
Very good today. Interesting time for the next couple of days for you down in Cape Town. Just tell us about the conference and your expectations.
Well, you know, Eben, infectious diseases are a major problem globally, but particularly in Africa. And so for the International Society to be in Africa to host its major meeting here in South Africa is really exciting for us. The last time the meeting was in Africa was way back in 1992 in Nairobi, so it's been 22 years. And we'll be dealing with all of the major infections which are a problem in Africa, those that many people know about, such as AIDS, malaria, TB. But we're also going to talk about some of the advances that South Africa has made, particularly in immunizing the babies in this country. So South Africa leads the continent in immunizing young babies, protecting them from infectious diseases. And this can have some very interesting effects on the whole society. So some of those infections like pneumonia, for instance, can cause major problems in HIV-infected adults, in the elderly. But when you immunize the babies, you stop the transmission in the whole society. And we're expecting really good things in South Africa from this immunization program, which has ramped up dramatically in the last few years.
When we talk about infectious disease, just tell us what we're talking about.
So essentially, there's a relationship that we have as human beings with microbes. You know, there are actually more bugs, cells in our body than there are human cells, which is an incredible thought. But our gut, for instance, is full of bacteria, viruses, and most of them, in fact, cause no problems. But particularly if, say, children are malnourished, if people if they smoke, and in general, as you get older, you get susceptible again to these infectious diseases, and they are, in the developing world, still the leading cause of death. So more people die of infectious disease than any other cause in the very poorest parts of the world. As countries develop, other things become more important, like heart disease and so on. But still, in kids, in fact, infectious diseases are by far the most important cause of death in the developing world.
Ordinary people, how do you recognize this kind of thing, and where do you go to find treatment?
Well, this is really important. So we believe, obviously, that prevention is better than cure. So obviously, people go to their physicians or to a local clinic if they have a fever and if they have a cough, and these are all infectious diseases. Diarrhea is another major sign of an infectious disease. But of course, what's better than treatment is prevention. So we will, in the meeting, stress vaccination as a really important way to stop infection, because as Dr. Mendelsohn, who will follow me in your program, is going to discuss, if you focus entirely on treatment, you can run into problems of resistance developing. But I'll leave that to a further discussion that you can have.
HIV/AIDS, fortunately or unfortunately, always seems to be a top discussion point at the kind of conference you're having. How are you going to deal with that? It seems that this is good news around this time when you get together.
Well, there are some good things. Interestingly enough, quite a controversial issue, but in fact, it turns out that circumcision is a major way to stop the transmission of HIV. And although there were a lot of questions for many years about how this could be rolled out, this is now a major program, and some countries in Africa have really gone a long way down this track to stop the transmission. But there, of course, with HIV, we don't have a vaccine. So it's a matter of using drugs also to try and get people better and to stop them spreading the disease from one to another. But there's a degree of optimism even in that area. Some of the other major areas that we'll be talking about is TB. The Southern Cape here has a lot of TB. And again, there are attempts to make new vaccines for that. And in fact, even malaria eradication is on the agenda. And there are hopes that after many years, there's enough in the toolbox now, using various modalities, attacking the mosquitoes as well as good drugs, and potentially also a vaccine, that we could reduce and even potentially interrupt transmission of malaria. And South Africa would be quite a good place for that, because we don't have the year-round malaria problems of some other countries.
Professor, thank you very much for joining us today. Wish you all the best there the next couple of days with the conference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Lusitoland, Johannesburg's hottest family festival, is back this month with some of the finest South African musicians and bands taking to the stage. The festival will run from the 24th of April until the 4th of May. Now, today in studio, I'm quite excited about this because my favorite band, Mikasa, Jay, is in the studio today. And we also have our own YouTube sensation, who is Felipe. She's standing in the big window behind there. She'll be there. But I get to speak to Jay a little bit today. You must be a bit tired. It's been a busy week. You've been at Miss SA. You've been at the Jazz Fest in Cape Town.
It's been good, man. It's been a rocking weekend.
Yeah, it's been a rocking weekend. I want to talk to you about the inspiration, because, you know, I'm more of an old school kind of house guy. I grew up with Frankie Knuckles, who passed away yesterday, which is, you know, a little bit sad. But where do you guys get your inspiration from for quite a young a housey band. You guys are quite mature.
Quite mature in our sound. Yeah, man. You know, I think the whole story with Mikasa has happened very organically. So there hasn't really been like, you know, we're going to use these guys as a reference. We kind of just got into studio and just made the music that we make, you know. But if we had to break it down, I think Tortured Soul would be a really good example to kind of say where we drew our inspiration from.
Oh, that's brilliant to hear, actually. And tell us about the last 3 years, because it must be an absolutely
crazy.
Absolutely crazy. I see you. I was at the Jazz Festival and I saw you guys there. And you guys absolutely ripped it apart.
Yeah, it was nuts.
It was brilliant. So just tell us about the last 3 years.
Yeah, the last
year. What's your life been like?
Oh, man, you know, when we look back at the story of how actually the band started and looking back at to where we are now, we actually get blown away as to, you know, is this actually real? You know, because it started all by chance. You know, we actually just met on a stage without knowing each other, and from there we actually started a band. And the last 3 years, I mean, you know, we've seen the band grow too fast, man. Really quick. I mean, we just finished a 16-country African tour, which has been incredible. You know, the band's traveled to the US, we've traveled to Europe, and it's been amazing. Really, I think the one word that kind of just captures everything is that we've really been blessed, man.
And your album Sukasa is really a classic now. It's a must-be in everyone's sort of collection. How does that make you feel that you're probably going to live forever now, man?
Well, recently we got nominated for 5 South African Music Awards, and it kind of reminded me of the pressure that everybody was putting on us for the second album, you know, because the second album was always the deciding factor of whether you can stay around or whether you're just, you know, a one-hit wonder. And looking at the second album, it's already gone platinum, it's already been nominated so many times. So, yeah, we're here to stay, man, no doubt.
Fantastic, guys. That's fantastic. And you've got such a massive following. With that comes a bit of big responsibility, I suppose. How do you interact with the fans, and how do you keep that together?
I think one of the things that we always get asked is, you know, what's kind of been the highlights of our career or what's been our biggest achievements. And I think people automatically think that we're going to jump to the awards or, you know, playing for Barack Obama, blah, 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 all that jazz. But actually the biggest achievement, I think, for Mikasa has been seeing, you know, all the different people come together, the black, white, colored, Indian, everybody come and listen to our music. And I think, you know, it's been one of the biggest eye-openers for us is to actually understand the responsibility that we have, because we do have a huge youth following and a huge older following, you know. So the parents are watching and the kids are watching, so there's a huge responsibility for us to be you know, good role models.
You're a role model in my house because, you know, my son is 13, my daughter's 7. You know, they'll go through the album and say, Dad, number 2's my favorite, number 7's yours, number 9's it's kind of that sort of thing. It's really exciting then, I suppose, to be coming up Joburg now, doing the Cityland. Must be looking forward to what will be a cracking festival.
Yeah, man, it's always a highlight in our calendar year, you know. I think it's more than just a festival, and I think that's what makes it special, you know. It's of course, it's got that Portuguese element to it, which makes it even more special for me because, you know, as Portuguese people, you always try and cling to your little bit of culture that you have here in South Africa. But I think, you know, the festival also boasts something that not a lot of festivals do boast, which is it's for a good cause, you know. So it's more than just a show. They're actually doing it for a good cause.
Tell us about what the fans can be looking forward to from you guys for the rest of the year.
We're on top of our game at the moment, man. You know, we really in the swing of things, and the more we play, the better we get. You know, the more we rehearse, the better we get. So we currently obviously still exploiting the African market. You know, we're carrying on with the second leg of the African tour. We're about to release our new music video this Friday for our latest single called Turn You On. So, yeah, man, just a lot of gigging and a lot of good music.
Well, keep it going. You guys got a nation and the world at your feet, a nation in your hands, and you're doing fantastic work to even bring us old boys of house back into the mix. So thanks, Jay.
Thanks, man.
Thanks very much to Mikasa, Jay. Biggest, in my opinion, biggest band in the country right now, and let's hope they stay there for the next decade. But a young lady that's also making a splash is Felipe, and she's with Katrine. They, well, she's won the Ryan Seacrest competition overseas, and she's standing by with, what's your name again, Katrine?
Funny guy. No, another Portuguese sensation, I hear, also performing at Lusitaland this year. Felipe, you were on the show earlier this year, and we've been following your career. How's it been? Like, how's it changed since we last saw you?
It's been crazy. Like, I've been performing a lot. I've had a few gigs here and there in Joburg and Cape Town. And, you know, I've been meeting great people in the industry and working with a lot of people and getting my single together, getting my stuff together. So it's been exciting, been really busy.
Tell us about the single. I know we've got behind-the-scenes footages and everything. How's that journey been?
It's been an incredible journey. I had so much fun. I'm actually doing the finishing touches on Thursday. So, yeah, I can't wait to bring it out. It's really,
when
really
will
great.
we get to hear it?
Okay. Hopefully, I don't want to put in a date yet, but, you know, in the next few weeks.
But you will let us know on Twitter. And
yes,
all
definitely,
that.
definitely.
Listen, tell me, have you received that call from Ryan Seacrest yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
No.
We're still waiting.
It's very much like, you know, on the down low still. So,
so we're still waiting on that. Tell me, later this month actually, is the Lizito Land Festival.
Yes.
It's your second time performing at the festival this year. Can you tell us a bit more about just why it's so special for you to be performing at this festival?
Well, first of all, because I am Portuguese, you know, it's great to be performing there, you know, to have my heritage a little bit given to my heritage. And another thing is it's just for a really good cause. I mean, it's for the Luzito, goodness, I've lost my words here. It's for the handicap school. So it's a great cause, you know, it's all for charity. So it's really wonderful to be part of that.
And do you have the dates that you will be performing, when we can be expecting
Yes,
to
the
see you on
26th
stage?
of April at 6 o'clock and the 1st of May at 5:45.
And what are you expecting differently from the festival this year? I understand it's the second time you're performing
Yes,
this
it's
year.
the second time. Well, you know, a different group of people, you know, different things. I mean, it's always different. And it's so great being able to perform, you know, with amazing local artists like Mikaza, like, you know, Lockenville, Kurt Darren, like just to name a few. So it's really great. I'm looking forward to it.
The festival, it's about food, culture, music. Tell us Portuguese food. What's your favourite? What you're looking forward
I
to?
have so much. You know, I have like a grandma that basically cooks me everything. You know, pragos, farturas, everything, like sardinhas. I mean, there's so much there that's just amazingly good.
Listen, and just what can we be expecting from your career later this year? Any highlights coming up?
Well, yes, I do have a few gigs coming up, and I'm releasing my single pretty soon, and also I'm working on an album.
Listen, how have you been coping up with the studies and everything as well?
It's been crazy. I mean, like currently I'm on holiday now, so I came down to Joburg for a few days. But I'm coping. I mean, I'm having so much fun at college, so it's not that difficult for me to really be able to do it.
Listen, but it's such a pleasure to always have you on the show, and it's like a bright young talent that we will keep on following here at Newsroom. And then just to update you again, that was Felipe who won the RyanSeacrest.com Best Cover competition earlier this year. Now she will be performing at the Lizito Land Festival later this month. That will be running from the 24th till the 7th of May, if I'm correct. More on the story and the behind-the-scenes footage of Felipe is available on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Eben, back to you.
Yeah, I really look forward to going to the festival. Of course, I have to not drink too much and eat too much meat because of the gout that I now have. Unfortunately, we've come to an end, but before we go, we're going to have a final look at what you're talking about on social media and what you're thinking about. Jen says, just saw the reports on Chile earthquake and my heart sunk. My thoughts and prayers with the Chileans, I suppose, and her people right now. Pray for Chile, she says. Tatusi John says 8.2 followed by 12 aftershocks. Chile earthquake, yeah, it's quite hectic, my friend. Michelle Rosa Sylvain says death toll after 8.2 magnitude earthquake in Chile has risen to 5. Well, there we have an update. We reported earlier that only 2 people have passed away. Of course, there was a tsunami, also a 2-meter high tsunami in that country. Survey Viral says social media is playing a major role in the world updates for the tsunami happening from Chile earthquake. Powerful, pray for Chile. Kenneth Moultrie says 300 inmates escaping from prison has to be a logistical nightmare and dangerous too. Chile earthquake, says Kenneth Moultrie. No, we're not done yet. We're going to go to Cape Town. The president of the International Society of Infectious Diseases, Professor Mark Mendelson, is with us. Very good morning. Very good morning to you, sir. Are you with us?
Good morning, Eben. I am with you. Just a correction. I'm the president of the Federation of Infectious Diseases Societies of Southern Africa. Professor Klugman, who you spoke to earlier, is the president of ISID.
Just tell us about your expectations for this week.
Well, we're incredibly excited to welcome over 1,600 delegates to this really prestigious conference on infectious diseases. And we're going to be debating really important topics for not only Africa but global health, and some topics that don't often get the highlight that they perhaps deserve.
Tell us about the concept of this conference. How's it going to be different, and how's it going to make a difference in people's lives?
Well, it is the largest international infectious diseases conference, and the aim of this conference is to discuss and debate the important issues in infectious diseases to improve patient care and management and also research. There are some very important issues that we're going to be discussing, and Professor Klugman mentioned earlier the issue of antibiotic and antimicrobial resistance, in other words, resistance to drugs that we use to treat infections. And this conference really comes at a time of global concern, an unprecedented concern indeed, of the rise of resistance in bacteria, including tuberculosis, but common bacterial infections that we see in our community and in our hospitals, where we're losing antibiotics that we have because of resistance, the potential for resistance in malaria spreading from Southeast Asia into Africa, the increase that's likely to occur in resistance to antiretrovirals as the HIV program rolls out. And the WHO have put a resolution in front of the World Health Assembly, which will be debated in 1 month's time, for a global call to action on this issue. And many of the sessions in the conference will deal with antimicrobial resistance.
Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. Unfortunately, hopefully we can get back to you and when the conference ends, and you can give us a little update, Professor. That's Professor Mark Mendelsohn down in Cape Town, of course. The International Conference on Infectious Disease kicks off today in the Mother City, and that will last until the 5th of April. That's where we call it. The show is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. Highlights are repeated at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following morning. We're also streaming live on YouTube between 9 and 10 a.m. every day. Then you can watch the whole show on our YouTube channel all of the time. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We simply love it in the morning.